Okay, we're back. Next step, after I've popped in a few of the leaves, is to put in the branches. As you can see here, we do have some branches which run all the way through the back of the piece. I normally like to do that with a nice warm tone which will play off the cooler colours of the greens. I just slightly dragging the pastel through. I can begin to build branches. Paying attention to angles, because the angles of these branches will help tie everything in together. That's why stroke direction is so important. Once I have the base tone laid in, I then normally go in with an umber. Umber is a very useful colour, as you can see. It pretty much lays the base or foundation for most of what I do in these works. There are a huge amount of umber tones available in the pastel range. My favourites tend to be my Winsor & Newton, which are quite soft and warm, and also moving across into my art spectrums. My art spectrums are quite cool by comparison, almost having a greenish tinge to them at their lightest. By playing off with that slightly green tinge for highlights, it allows it all to tie into the branches rather than playing up against the lines themselves. Where I want the strongest highlights, I can later get there and put some warm white on, which will pull that all through anyway. And as you can see, where I need it, I can actually use the umber, same as I use the permanent sap green, just to build some warmer leaves in place. Filling in the gaps on something like this, a colour like green earth becomes very useful. It's greenish grey and works well because the toning of it is very similar to my mid-tones that I work with. If I was to drop it back to black and white, you'd actually notice that the tone itself blends quite well. Makes it a very useful ally and a worker in these circumstances. Even to blend this colour through into the brighter tones I was using above. Because of the play of the light, the main streams of light, as you can see, are running down the ridge of the nose here. Similar in the photo will run across the jowl of this lining. Therefore I need to really accentuate some warm with cool coming through over the top. For that I've gone to a much darker tone, which I'm going to use very sparingly and be over blending with mid-tones. But it will provide just enough I can really start to get a better feel for where we're headed. Another way I can actually work that is use that darker tone, and rather than blending with another green, would be the obvious thing, I can go back in with a brown. As you can see, I've used nice loose strokes for those darker tones. To break that up, I'm using a very tight scumbling technique. Almost like what you'd do if you were working in pen and ink and hatching. Keeping it all one direction at the moment. The main use of it is just going to be to provide some shadow tones through there a little bit of variation. This tone is actually the main one that I've used through the darker sections of the main, and so it is integral to the flow of the work. Now, as you can see, we're starting to get a real good feel for what's happening up there. I just need to blend a little bit more through here, tie it in with what we've got going over here. The great thing about working on section by section is if I need to adjust, I can quite easily, as you'll see in a moment. And I'll bring more of that colour through and change a few directions in through here, just allowing everything to flow into the work rather than out. As you can see, those darker brownish tones I put through there have now been broken up once again, giving us good variation and just putting a bit of a ghosting through there rather than having a solid base to work